single mom stunned Korean Mafia when she defeated 15 hitmen her ex hired. What he did next changed his life. The door to apartment 412 burst open with a splintering crash. 3 men in black tactical gear surged through, weapons drawn. They expected to find a sleeping single mother. An easy target. What they found was Diana Chun standing in the center of her living room. Eyes cold as winter steel. 15 seconds, she said softly. That's how long it took to realize my daughter's father sent you. The lead intruder raised his weapon. Don't move. Diana's smile was resolute. I've already moved. The man looked down to find his weapon hand empty, disarmed so swiftly he hadn't registered the movement. As he lunged forward, Diana sidestepped with practiced precision, using his momentum to send him crashing into the wall. The second attacker came at her with a tactical baton. Diana blocked the strike, trapped his arm in a joint lock, and used his own weight against him. He hit the floor with a controlled thud. The third man rushed her from behind, but Diana had already anticipated the move. She dropped low, swept his legs, and in one fluid motion disabled him with a pressure point technique. All in complete silence. Not a sound to wake her sleeping child. Diana checked her watch. 28 seconds total. Then she picked up one of their phones and dialed a number she'd deleted years ago. Hello, Sung-ho, she whispered. These 3 were just the beginning, weren't they? Send the rest. By morning, you'll remember exactly who you threatened. In his luxury penthouse across Seoul, Korean Mafia underboss Kim Sung-ho stared at his phone in growing horror. What have I done? He whispered. For hours earlier, Diana Chun had been just another overworked single mom. Her hospital scrubs were wrinkled from a double shift in the pediatric intensive care unit. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, strands escaping around her face. To anyone watching her walk the 3 blocks from the bus stop to her modest apartment building, she looked like thousands of other working mothers. Tired, determined, ordinary. No one would guess that 10 years ago, Diana Chun had been known by a different name in classified military intelligence circles. No one would imagine that those hands, now gentle enough to insert IVs into terrified children, had once been honed through years of specialized training. No one would suspect that beneath her nurse's compassion lay the precision-engineered reflexes of a woman who had served in operations that officially never happened. Diana unlocked her apartment door at 7:43 p.m. Mrs. Rodriguez from next door had been watching Lily, as she did on late shift days. Mommy! 6-year-old Lily launched herself from the couch, homework abandoned, her small body colliding with Diana's legs. Her dark eyes, so like her father's, sparkled with excitement. I lost another tooth. Diana's exhaustion vanished as she knelt down, examining the gap in her daughter's smile. Look at that. Did you put it under your pillow? Mrs. Rodriguez gathered her knitting. She insisted on waiting until you saw it first. The tooth fairy might bring extra for such a big tooth, Diana whispered to Lily, who giggled in response. After Mrs. Rodriguez left, Diana made dinner, simple pasta with vegetables that Lily picked around, and supervised bath time, story time, and the sacred placement of the tooth beneath Lily's unicorn-patterned pillow. Mommy? Lily asked as Diana tucked the blanket around her small shoulders. Yes, sweetheart. Jessica at school says everyone has a daddy. Where's mine? Diana had prepared for this question, had rehearsed answers that were age-appropriate, that didn't reveal too much, that protected Lily from truths a 6-year-old shouldn't have to carry. Your daddy lives very far away, she said carefully. In South Korea. That's where Mommy met him. Why doesn't he visit? Diana brushed Lily's hair back from her forehead. Sometimes grown-ups make complicated choices. But he gave me you, and that makes him important. Does he know about my tooth? Diana's heart twisted. No, sweetie. But someday, when you're older, I'll tell you more about him. After Lily fell asleep, Diana moved through her evening routine. Dishes washed. Lunch packed for tomorrow. Lily's homework checked and tucked into her backpack. Only then did she allow herself to acknowledge what her trained instincts had been screaming since she stepped off the bus. She was being watched. Diana moved to the living room window, adjusting the blinds in what would appear to be a casual motion. The black sedan that had been parked across the street for the past 3 days was still there. Different driver tonight. Broader shoulders. Military posture. This was no random surveillance. This was professional. Methodical. Diana knew exactly who had sent them. She moved to the hall closet, reaching past winter coats and rainy day umbrellas to the locked box on the top shelf. The key had hung around her neck, beneath her clothes, every day for 6 years. Inside the box was a burner phone she'd never used and a defensive kit she'd hoped never to touch again. Diana hesitated, hand hovering over the box. Taking it out meant acknowledging that the life she'd built was in danger, that the wall between her past and present was crumbling. Her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. The text contained only a single Korean character. A warning from her last remaining contact in intelligence. It translated simply to, "Coming." Diana retrieved the kit, securing its contents around her body in practiced movements. She made a final check on Lily, sleeping peacefully, unaware that her world was about to change. Then Diana Chun began to prepare. 6 years earlier, Diana Chun, then operating under a different name, had been the U.S. military's most effective intelligence asset in Seoul. Fluent in Korean, with features that allowed her to blend in with minimal effort, she had infiltrated several criminal organizations as part of a joint task force targeting international arms dealers. The Jumyeong Syndicate had been her final assignment, and Kim Sung-ho had been her way in. Second in command of the organization, ambitious and intelligent, Kim had been targeted as a potential intelligence source. Diana was tasked with getting close to him. What neither Diana nor her handlers had anticipated was the genuine attraction that developed between them. Kim Sung-ho was charming, sophisticated, and surprisingly vulnerable in private moments. He spoke of growing up poor in Busan, of clawing his way to respect and power, of the brother he'd lost to gang violence. Diana found herself sharing edited versions of her own truths, her Chinese-American heritage, her military service, her loneliness. Their relationship progressed rapidly. Within months, Diana was living in his luxury apartment, attending syndicate functions as his partner, and reporting back increasingly valuable intelligence to her handlers. Then 2 things happened simultaneously that changed everything. First, Diana discovered she was pregnant. Second, she intercepted communications revealing that Kim was personally overseeing a weapons shipment that would arm terrorists in 3 countries. The man she had grown to love, whose child she now carried, was directly facilitating mass murder for profit. Diana had 48 hours to make an impossible choice. Complete her mission, which now included gathering evidence for Kim's eventual arrest and prosecution, or protect her unborn child from growing up with a father in prison or worse. She chose her child. Diana disappeared from Seoul without a trace, using intelligence agency resources and protocols to create a new identity. She left no message, no explanation. Her handlers were furious, but her exemplary service record and the classified nature of her operations provided some protection. She was granted a quiet discharge, neither honorable nor dishonorable, and set about building a life for herself and her daughter. She became a nurse because it allowed her to help people instead of harming them, because the irregular hours matched her need to be vigilant, because hospitals were public places with security cameras and witnesses, harder targets for someone seeking revenge. For 6 years, there had been no sign that Kim had found her. Until now, Diana pulled the living room curtains shut and began moving silently through her apartment. She had chosen this unit specifically for its defensible features: corner apartment, fire escape access, reinforced door to the master bedroom that could become a safe room if necessary. She had maintained certain precautions over the years. Emergency bags with supplies and cash stashed in accessible locations. Defensive measures that looked like ordinary household items. Escape routes practiced so often they became Lily's favorite game, secret agent training, Diana called it, making it fun instead of frightening. Now she activated every contingency plan. She moved Lily from her own bedroom to the walk-in closet in the master bedroom, a space they had decorated together for special camping nights, complete with a small mattress, battery-powered lantern, and Lily's favorite stuffed animals. The reinforced door would protect her daughter if the worst happened. Diana changed from her nurse's scrubs into dark jeans and a black long-sleeved shirt that wouldn't restrict her movement. She swept her hair back into a tight, practical bun. From various hiding spots throughout the apartment, she retrieved her defensive tools, a tactical flashlight, zip ties, a collapsible baton, and several non-lethal deterrents. Then she began transforming her apartment into a tactical environment of her choosing. Furniture was subtly repositioned to create choke points. Kitchen chemicals were mixed into improvised smoke screens. Tripwires were set at ankle height across vulnerable entry points. The apartment's circuit breaker panel was modified to allow for selective power disruption. Throughout these preparations, Diana remained hyper-aware of the surveillance outside. The sedan had been joined by a utility van classic surveillance configuration. 2 men in the sedan, likely 3 in the van, all focused on her building's main entrance. None appeared to have noticed the fire escape on the building's west side. Their mistake. At precisely 11:17 p.m., Diana's burner phone vibrated with another message from her intelligence contact. Multiple teams. Professional. Moving now. Diana took up position in the center of her living room. Lights dimmed, appearing to be watching television. To surveillance, she would look relaxed, unaware. The perfect target. She controlled her breathing, her heart rate, her muscle tension techniques she hadn't used in years flooding back with muscle memory. The Diana Chun who bandaged skinned knees and sang lullabies receded. In her place emerged the operative that various governments had spent millions training. When the door splintered open at 11:22 p.m., Diana was ready. The aftermath of the first 3 attackers was just the beginning. Diana knew Kim Sung-ho well enough to recognize this was merely the advanced team of scouts sent to assess the situation. She secured the unconscious men with zip ties. One was beginning to stir as she finished. "You're making a mistake," he slurred in Korean. "Do you know who sent us?" Diana responded in the same language, her accent perfect. "I know exactly who sent you. That's the only reason you're still breathing." She needed information more than she needed to fight. The first attacker provided it with minimal persuasion. 2 more teams, he revealed. 4 men each. They're waiting for our signal. When? 10 minutes apart. First team probably already moving since we didn't check in. Diana checked her watch. She had perhaps 3 minutes before the next wave arrived. She needed to call Mrs. Rodriguez. The retired police officer next door was the only neighbor Diana had ever confided in, partly. "Rosa," Diana said when the older woman answered, her voice calm despite the urgency. "Protocol 7. There was a pause. Then, "Lily? Safe for now. But I need your help. On it." The line disconnected. Protocol 7 was their code for extreme danger. Mrs. Rodriguez would contact her son, an active police officer, with a specific message that would bring response teams, but delay them just enough for Diana to handle the immediate threat. More importantly, the older woman would position herself to intercept Lily if she came through the emergency exit in the master closet, a feature Diana had installed when they first moved in. Diana took a final look around her apartment, the home she had created for her daughter, filled with school art projects and photos of their life together. After tonight, regardless of the outcome, they could never return here. The thought brought a flash of anger so intense it almost disrupted her focus. Kim Sung-ho had already taken so much from them. Now he was taking their home too. Diana channeled the anger, let it sharpen her resolve rather than cloud her judgment. She moved to the apartment's junction box and cut the main power. Darkness enveloped the space, but Diana had memorized every inch. She navigated by touch and spatial awareness to a position beside the front door, waiting for the next team. They arrived at 11:27 p.m. 4 men more heavily equipped than the first group, moving with greater caution after their colleagues failed to report in. They entered with tactical lights sweeping the darkened apartment. Standard entry pattern, clearing corners. Professional but predictable. The first man triggered the tripwire Diana had set. Instead of an explosive, it released a cloud of harmless but disorienting smoke. As he stumbled back, Diana struck from behind, driving the heel of her palm into the pressure point at the base of his skull. He collapsed quietly. The commotion alerted his teammates. Tactical lights swung toward the sound, momentarily blinding them to threats from other directions. Diana was already moving, using their light against them, staying in their shadows. The second intruder went down when something hard and fast struck the nerve cluster in his shoulder. His arm went numb instantly, his weapon clattering to the floor. Diana caught him before he hit the ground. Noise discipline remained priority, with Lily sleeping nearby. The third and fourth men split up, a standard response to an ambush. One moved toward the kitchen while the other back toward the bedrooms. Diana's priority instantly shifted. No one approached Lily's location. She abandoned stealth for speed, launching herself at the man moving toward the bedrooms. He sensed her coming, turned with impressive reflexes, and managed to fire a single shot from his silenced pistol. The bullet missed Diana by inches as she dropped into a slide, sweeping his legs from beneath him. His head struck the corner of a framed photo. Ironically, a picture of Lily at the zoo, laughing on Diana's shoulders. The glass shattered. The man slumped. Diana was already turning to face the final attacker from this second wave. He had used the distraction well, positioning himself in the kitchen with clear sightlines to both the hallway and living room. Professional's choice. "Stand down," he called in English, his accent suggesting Eastern European training. "We are not here for the child. Just you. Come quietly. The girl never knows what happened to mommy." Diana assessed her options. The kitchen offered him too many advantages: distance, cover, multiple improvised weapons. Rushing him would expose her to unnecessary risk. So she changed the game. "Lily," she called out, her voice carrying just enough to reach the master bedroom. "Remember our special camping game? Time to play." It was their code phrase. Inside the walk-in closet, 6-year-old Lily Chun would now be following the instructions she'd practiced dozens of times. Put on the backpack already packed with essentials. Press the hidden button that opened a concealed exit into the building's emergency stairwell, and run directly to Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment. The momentary confusion on the attacker's face gave Diana the opening she needed. She flipped the circuit breaker she'd modified earlier. The kitchen remained dark, but the hallway light flashed on blindingly, directly in the attacker's line of sight. Diana moved during his split second of adjustment, closing distance, redirecting his weapon arm with a technique that used his own resistance against him. His shoulder locked painfully, and the weapon clattered to the floor. She could have disabled him permanently then. Instead, Diana rendered him unconscious with a precise strike to a pressure point. 7 down, 8 to go. The sound of the single gunshot, though suppressed, had been enough. Diana heard the soft thump of Lily following their escape protocol. Good girl. She would be safe with Mrs. Rodriguez while Diana finished this. She checked her watch. 11:36 p.m. The final team would be mobilizing soon, the elite group, the one sent when others failed. Diana used the brief reprieve to apply a compression bandage to a graze on her arm she hadn't even noticed in the heat of action. She checked the secured attackers. All unconscious but stable. Diana felt nothing but focus. These men had come to take a mother from her child. Their failure was inevitable from the moment they accepted the mission. Her phone vibrated. A text from Mrs. Rodriguez. Package received. Proceeding to secondary location. Relief flooded through Diana. Lily was safe. Now she could focus entirely on the threat. Diana moved through her apartment, gathering additional tools from her hidden caches. The final team would be the most dangerous. The professionals. The operatives Kim Sung-ho trusted most. At 11:52 p.m., Diana sensed rather than heard the change in the atmosphere outside her apartment building. The surveillance vehicles had gone dark. Radio chatter from the captured attackers' equipment had ceased. The final team was making their approach, and they were doing it right. Diana positioned herself in the shadows of her living room, back to the wall, clear sightlines to all entry points. The remaining threats would be the most dangerous, not common thugs or hired muscle, but genuine professionals. The kind of men Kim Sung-ho reserved for his most important operations. Her phone buzzed again. Her intelligence contact's final warning. Elite team. 5 operators. Military background. Armed for war. Diana allowed herself 3 deep breaths, centering her focus. She thought of Lily safely away from this violence. She thought of the life they'd built, now shattered. She thought of Kim Sung-ho, who had once whispered promises of forever in her ear, while she pretended not to be gathering intelligence on his organization. The first sign of the final team was almost imperceptible. A slight shift in air pressure as someone accessed the building's roof. They weren't coming through the front door like the others. They had studied the failures of the previous teams and adapted. Diana smiled grimly. Good. She preferred a worthy challenge. The attack came from multiple entry points simultaneously. The living room window shattered as a black-clad figure swung in from the roof. The front door burst open, frame splintering despite the reinforcements. The bathroom window broke as a third attacker squeezed through the narrow opening. Two more entered from the hallway door, which someone had unlocked from outside. 5 men moving with coordinated precision, weapons up, and scanning. They wore tactical gear including night vision goggles, communication devices, and body armor. These weren't just hired operatives. They were a military unit. Diana had positioned herself in the one blind spot their entry points created, the small alcove beside the kitchen counter. As they established their formation, she made her assessment. These men knew what they were doing. They moved as a single organism, covering each other's blind spots, maintaining disciplined fire sectors. Time to introduce chaos into their order. Diana triggered her final trap, a simple device that simultaneously blew the building's electrical panel and ignited a smoke bomb in the ventilation system. The apartment plunged into darkness as thick smoke began pouring from the vents. The team responded professionally, switching to thermal imaging mode on their goggles. But Diana had prepared for this too. She'd positioned heat packs throughout the apartment, creating false signatures that would register on thermal imaging. Movement, kitchen, one operator whispered into his comm. Movement, hallway, responded another. Multiple signatures, added a third. Spread out. Find the primary target. They were splitting up, exactly what Diana wanted. She moved first against the operator who had entered through the bathroom. He was the most isolated, furthest from support. Diana closed the distance in complete silence. Her years of training crystallized into pure efficiency. Her first strike targeted the night vision gear, ripping it from his head. Her second hit the nerve cluster at the base of his neck, instantly numbing his right arm. As his weapon dropped, her third strike, a precision chop to the shoulder, left him immobilized but conscious. "Who else is here?" she whispered in Korean, directly into his ear. "Who else did Kim send?" "Just us," he responded, professional enough to answer quickly when defeat was certain. 5 operators. Elite team. Is he watching? Is there a feed? The man hesitated, which was answer enough. Diana rendered him unconscious with a final strike to a pressure point, then moved to the next target. The second operator was more prepared, sensing her approach. He fired 3 silenced rounds that would have hit if Diana hadn't already been moving. She slid beneath his line of fire, closing to grappling range where his weapon became a liability. This fight was harder. The man clearly had hand-to-hand combat training. They exchanged a flurry of strikes, blocks, and counterstrikes. Diana took a solid hit to her ribs that would leave deep bruising, but managed to trap his arm in a joint lock that gave her leverage over his entire body. "Kim is watching, isn't he?" she hissed as she applied pressure to the lock. "Tell him I'm coming for him next." The man's only response was a grunt of pain as Diana increased the pressure until he yielded. She followed with a strike to a nerve cluster that dropped him to the floor. 9 down, 3 to go. The remaining operators had realized something was wrong. They regrouped in the living room, standing back to back in a defensive triangle. "Smart. No blind spots. Thermal is compromised," one said into his comm. "Switch to standard night ops." Diana watched them from the hallway shadow. These 3 would require a different approach. Direct confrontation against 3 trained operators simultaneously would be unnecessarily risky. She reached for her final resource, a flashbang grenade she'd kept from her service days. Military grade, designed to disorient without causing permanent damage. Diana closed her eyes, turned away, and threw it into the center of their formation. The bang was deafening in the confined space. The flash, even with her eyes closed and face turned away, left spots in Diana's vision. For the operators directly facing it, the effect was devastating. Their night vision goggles amplified the flash, effectively blinding them. The concussive sound, trapped in the apartment, disrupted their equilibrium. Diana moved through them like a surgical instrument, precise, efficient, unstoppable. 1, 2, 3 strikes and the remaining operators were down. 12 attackers neutralized. All unconscious, bound, and secured. Diana stood in the center of her destroyed apartment, breathing heavily. Sweat ran from her forehead. Her arm throbbed where a bullet had grazed it. But she was alive, victorious, and absolutely determined. She found the camera one of the final operators had been wearing, a small device transmitting a live feed. Diana stared directly into it, knowing exactly who was watching on the other end. "Hello, Sung-ho," she said, her voice deadly calm. "I believe we need to talk." In his luxurious penthouse overlooking the Seoul skyline, Kim Sung-ho sat frozen, staring at the monitor before him. Around him, senior Jumyong syndicate members watched in stunned silence as a single woman, a nurse, a mother, systematically dismantled 15 of their most effective operators. "Who is she?" asked Park Jin-woo, the syndicate's elderly consigliere. Kim couldn't answer immediately. His mind was struggling to reconcile the woman on the screen with the Diana Chen he thought he had known. The woman he had fallen in love with. The woman who had disappeared 6 years ago, taking his unborn child with her. "She's not who I thought," he finally managed. On the screen, Diana stared directly into the camera, her eyes cold and determined. "Hello, Sung-ho," she said. "I believe we need to talk." Kim felt a chill run through him. The woman he'd spent years searching for, first out of rage at her betrayal, then out of desperate need to understand why she left, was suddenly revealed as something entirely different. "You sent operatives to my home," Diana continued, her voice terrifyingly controlled. "Where my daughter sleeps." "Your daughter, Sung-ho." The syndicate members turned to Kim in shock. He had never told them about the child. "I have spent 6 years building a life for her away from your world. 6 years making sure she would never know the things her father has done. And now you've destroyed that." Diana moved closer to the camera, her expression changing to something that made even hardened criminals shift uncomfortably in their seats. "I could have permanently disabled all your men. I chose not to. That's your one warning. Stay away from us or next time, I won't be so merciful." She reached toward the camera, but paused. "And Sung-ho? She has your eyes." The feed went dead. Silence filled the penthouse. Finally, Park Jin-woo spoke. "You never mentioned a child." Kim stared at the blank screen. "I never knew. Not until 2 years ago when my investigators finally located her." "And the mother? Who is she really?" Kim shook his head slowly. "I don't know anymore." Another syndicate leader leaned forward. "She just defeated 15 of our best operatives. Alone. That is not a nurse. That is not a civilian." "No," Kim agreed. "She's not." The realization crystallized in his mind. The strange gaps in Diana's background that he'd attributed to her American upbringing. Her uncanny ability to understand the syndicate's operations so quickly. Her fluency in Korean that had seemed too perfect. "She was intelligence," he said finally. "American, probably. Sent to infiltrate us." The room erupted in angry shouts and demands for immediate retaliation. Only Kim remained silent, thinking. Diana hadn't permanently harmed his men when she clearly could have. She had protected their daughter for 6 years, keeping the girl safely away from his criminal world. And despite everything, she had just shown him mercy. "Enough," Kim said, his voice cutting through the chaos. The room fell silent. "This ends now. No more teams. No more surveillance." "You would let this insult stand?" demanded Young Ho, the syndicate's most volatile captain. "She has humiliated us." "She has humiliated me," Kim corrected sharply. "This was my operation, my order. And I was wrong." The admission stunned the room into silence. "Leave us," Kim ordered. One by one, the syndicate members filed out, faces dark with disapproval. Only Park Jin-woo, his oldest advisor, remained. "What will you do now?" Kim stared out at the Seoul skyline, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. "What I should have done years ago. Face her myself." 2 days later, Diana Chan sat in a coffee shop 3 cities away from her former apartment. Dark sunglasses covered the bruising around her left eye. A light jacket concealed the bandage on her arm. Across from her, Mrs. Rodriguez kept a protective eye on Lily, who was happily drawing at a table just within sight but out of earshot. The police report lists it as a home invasion gone wrong, Mrs. Rodriguez said, sliding her phone across the table to show Diana the local news coverage. My son made sure your name was kept out of it. Thank you, Diana said quietly. For everything. The older woman nodded. What now? Diana watched her daughter, innocently creating art while her entire world had been destroyed overnight. New identities. New city. Start over. Again. Again. Mrs. Rodriguez studied her face. He'll find you. Men like him don't stop. I know, Diana admitted. But I've bought us some time. Her burner phone vibrated on the table. An unknown number with a Korean country code. Diana stared at it, then excused herself to step outside the coffee shop. How did you get this number? She answered without preamble. I have resources, Kim Sung-ho's voice replied. He sounded different, older, perhaps, or simply unguarded in a way she'd rarely heard. What do you want? To meet, face to face. Diana laughed bitterly. So you can finish what your men couldn't? So I can see my daughter, once. Then I'll disappear from your lives forever. The request stunned her into momentary silence. You expect me to believe that? No, he admitted. I don't. But it's the truth. One meeting. Public place of your choosing. No syndicate, no guards. Just me. Diana named a public park in the center of the city. A place with multiple escape routes and too many witnesses for violence. The next day, Diana spotted Kim before he saw her. He'd aged in 6 years, silver threading through his once pure black hair. He wore no suit today, just jeans and a simple button-down shirt. No sunglasses, no bodyguards. Their eyes met across the distance. For a moment, neither moved. Then Kim walked slowly toward her bench, hands visible, movements deliberate. He stopped 5 feet away. Diana, that's not my real name, she said, but it's the one I've chosen. For several minutes, they simply sat in silence, watching children play on the nearby playground. She's not here, is she? Kim finally asked. Did you really think I would bring her? He shook his head. No, but I hoped. Hope is a luxury for people who don't send teams after mothers. Kim flinched visibly. I deserve that. Why did you want to meet? He turned to face her fully. I'm leaving the syndicate. Diana couldn't hide her shock. What? By this time tomorrow I will officially be dead. A new identity. A new life. Far from Korea. The syndicate will hunt you down. Perhaps. But I've prepared for that possibility for years. Why tell me this? Because I want you to know that you and Lily will never have to fear me again. Kim reached slowly into his pocket and withdrew a small, ornate wooden box. This is all I ask. Give this to her when she's older. Tell her whatever story you wish about her father. But let her have this one thing from me. Diana accepted the box cautiously, opening it to reveal a jade pendant. A tiger, intricately carved, hanging from a delicate silver chain. It belonged to my mother, Kim explained. The only thing of value she ever owned. It's not bugged, not tracked, just a legacy. Diana closed the box and slipped it into her pocket. I'll consider it. Kim nodded. Accepting this was the most he could hope for. He stood slowly, looking one last time at the playground. Goodbye, Diana. Goodbye, Sung-ho. He turned to leave, then paused. She has my eyes? Diana's expression softened slightly. And your smile. Your real one. The one you kept hidden from everyone. Something like peace crossed Kim's face. He nodded once, then walked away. That evening, as Lily slept in their hotel room, Diana sat by the window watching the city lights. Tomorrow would bring new identities, a new city, a new beginning. Again, her phone buzzed with a news alert, a small item about an explosion at a luxury penthouse in Seoul. No bodies recovered, but investigators believe the owner, a suspected organized crime figure, had been killed. Kim Sung-ho was officially dead. Diana closed the alert and opened her emails. An anonymous message contained account numbers and access codes to funds she hadn't possessed yesterday. Another provided details on a small house in a quiet town 3 states away, purchased through a shell corporation. Utilities connected, security system installed. She should have been suspicious, should have rejected this help from a man she'd been trained to consider an enemy. Instead, Diana felt something she hadn't experienced in 6 years. Peace. As the city lights twinkled below, Diana made her way to Lily's bedside. Her daughter slept peacefully, unaware of the events that had shaped her world. Diana gently brushed a strand of hair from Lily's face, then placed the jade tiger pendant in the small jewelry box on the nightstand. Some truths could wait, but this piece of her heritage, this one good thing from her father, would be waiting when she was ready.